if the new husband come back with a gun? What they gonna do then, bartender? I don't understand that part. Here's my problem I got with this one, bartender. This is Hill, this man who couldn't get a job, been to jail a whole bunch of times, and grew up, you know, like without a father, and his father had killed his mother and all this other. I mean, not killed her, but shot her in the face, and we just grew up around a violent neighborhood. My point is, after he got to a certain level where he's seen that, oh, these folks ain't gonna give him a job because he got a criminal record, and they're gonna keep him coming back on a life installment plan. Why didn't he start selling drugs? Because it seemed like to me he grew up in the 90s and the 80s. Anybody could have went and got a sack and started selling some drugs. So I don't understand why he didn't do that. And it ain't like he had to get in the gang or join the gang or any of that. He could have just went to the block. He knew somebody on the block, that nigga's an inmate. You know what I mean? Hooked up with somebody in there, been talking about what's going on, and then went and sold some drugs or something, and then, you know, rather than doing all that crazy ass robbing and shit, he wouldn't have got as much time for selling no little petty ass drugs as he was doing for robbing. He was gonna get a longer time because that was violence. So I didn't understand. And anyway, you know, why did he stay in that same spot? That's where he got it, because they already knew his MO, so he needed to move to a whole new fresh place, or go to a whole new city or something. That's where his problem was.
And after a time, he needed money to fund his new habit, so he turned to a life of petty crime. The crimes he was involved with were robbing stores to get money, but this took a more serious turn when he teamed up with another boy who was part of a local group of boys who were well known for their misdemeanours. He went by the name of Vincent Myers. They both plotted to rob a store in Glendora. It was considered to them as a low-risk robbery, and it was just outside of their local town. And this felt like any other robbery to Hill. But Myers had murder on his mind, and he, in the process of robbing the store, callously killed one of the shop workers and wounded another. Myers was taken into custody by the police and tried and sentenced to life in prison for this attack. But as Hill was a minor and not the one who killed them, he was let off with a shorter sentence. Keeping his head down in prison, he finished his schooling and graduated. Then in the mid-80s, Hill was paroled, and then on his release, he made his way to settle in the San Gabriel Valley. He didn't stay for long in one place and moved around a lot.
What the hell is in the San Gabriel Valley? What the fuck he going to live around some white folks who don't want him there? What the fuck? I don't understand that. Why didn't he go around some black people, man? This nigga. I'm talking about this before he got really involved in crime. I'm saying if he wanted to change his life, because he seemed like he was trying to get a job. They said he was going to get fired.
To the valley.
But I don't think so.
A place he now considered his home. Trying to keep himself out of trouble, he took low-paid work where he was staying and worked many different jobs. These jobs included a labourer, a store assistant, and even a forklift driver. All of these jobs didn't last long for a number of different reasons. He couldn't take authority well, and also the amount of work he did for the little money he made. But unbeknown to his bosses, when he was not at work, he was still out committing robberies. Not too long after his release, he was arrested yet again, and due to the fact that this was a second sentence, it was going to be longer. Again, it was said he was safe to be released back into the public and was paroled in February of 1993. This freedom was short-lived, as finding work in the area was hard. People who he approached for work all knew he wasn't a trustworthy person, so he went back to making money the only way he knew how. And again he was arrested, and this time the sentence was 10 years in prison. 63-way killer. Evidence and DNA had been left on all 6 victims, all women, all murdered and found in Los Angeles. These murders had taken place between the 1993 and 1994 release time from prison. These timings matched Hill's short-lived freedom. The victims of the 63-way killer were named as Sue Harris, who was murdered on the 1st of November 1993, then Roxanne Bates, who was found only 4 days after Betty, another named victim. Then Helen Hill, who was strangled like the 2 women previously named. Then Donna Goldsmith, who was murdered on the 16th of November 1993. And then Cheryl Sayers, who was also strangled and then found on the 30th of December 1993. Then finally, Deborah Brown, who was found on the 12th of January 1994. All women were found in cities all around the California State Route 60, which is how the serial killer got his name, the 63-way killer. A trial date was set for these murders in October 2006. Hill's lawyers spent their time arguing that Hill had been seriously abused as a child, and the fact that his father committed such horrific crimes against his mother made that he was sane and in perfectly sound mind when he committed these killings, and that the only sentence that he should receive should be the death penalty. And on March the 21st, 2007, he was in fact convicted of 6 first-degree murder charges and was given the death penalty. He was sentenced in Pomona Superior Court by Judge Charles Horan. He was sent to San Quentin Prison, a notorious prison which houses the worst killers in US history.
He used all that time to
Their
get a
death row
job
has a
selling
capacity
drugs
to hold
back in
over
them days.
700 death row inmates
See,
at
so he
any
was
one
bullshitting.
time.
He didn't want no job.
It is the oldest prison in California and has stood for just under 170 years. While serving his sentence on death row, 2 further murders had come to light and were all in the same jurisdiction as Hill when he was active. These murders had taken place in 1986 and 1987, over 15 years prior to the 93 and 94 murders he was facing the death penalty for. The victims were named as Lorna Reed, who was aged 35. She was found dead in an open field in San Dimas. And the second was Rhonda Jackson. She was found in a rubbish bin, wrapped in bin bags, and left in a parking lot, also in San Dimas. Both of the women had been strangled. The usual MO for Hill and the 63-way killer, which he was now known. He was further sentenced to these 2 murders and had an extra life sentence added to his death penalty. Ivan Hill is still residing in San Quentin Prison on death row, awaiting execution. He is currently aged 60. The early murders that were assigned to Hill were also a part of the 80s killings of many women that police assigned to just one serial killer. It was afterwards known